Jai Radha Madhova Kunjari Hari Jai Radha Madhova Kunjari Hari Jana Bhagava Vidadudhati Nopi Jana Bhagava Vidadudhati Srimad, His Divine Grace Abhaya, Charanad Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Jai, ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Jai, Ananda Goti Vaishnava Vrinda Jai, Namacharya Srila Viras Thakur Jai, Say Gaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shri Vasudeva Gaur Bhaktivinoda Jai Shri Radha Krishna Gaur Sayam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhani Jai Vrinda Surinam Jagadasami Kajai Vijay Kajai Shimani Lasti Devi Kajai Samaveda Bhakta Prem Gaur Premananda. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Prabhupada. Alright. So we are reading today from Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd Canto, Chapter 3, Text 13. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Shonako Vacha.
Shonako Vacha.
Iti. Abhivyarita.
Abhivyarita. Raja.
Shamya.
Shamya.
Vartarshava. Kim. Anya. Kristavan. Bhuyo. Vayasakim. Rishim. Kavim. Shalago Vacha. Itya Vivyaritam Rajaho. Shamya Bharatashava. Himanyat Kristavan Bhuyo. Vayasakim Rishim Kavim. Janako Vacha. Itya Vivyaritam Rajaho. Shamya Bharatashava. Himanyat Kristavan Bhuyo. Vayasakim Rishim Kavim. Shonako Vacha. Itya Vivyaritam Rajaho. Shamya Bharatashava. Himanyat Kristavan Bhuyo. Vayasakim Rishim Kavim.
Sanaka Vacha. Itya Vidya Hitam Raja. Samya Bharata Shava. Himanyat Prishtavan Bhuyo. Vayasakim Rishim Kavim.
Sonaka Vacha. Itya Vivyaritam Raja. Shamya Bharata Sabha. Himanyat Kristavan Bhuyo. Vayasakim Risham Kavim.
Sanaka Vacha. Vivyaritam Raja. Shamya Bharata Shava. Himanyat Kristavan Bhuyo. Vayasakim Rishim Kavim.
Shonaka Vacha. Iti Abhivyartam Raja. Nishamya Bharatarshabha
Nisamya Bhartashabha
Kim Anyat Prishtavan Bhuyo
Kimanya Krishna Bhuyo
Vayasakim Rishim Kavim
Vayasakim Rishim Kavim
Sunaka Vacha
Sanaka Vacha
Samabhuritam Raja
Idya Vidya Raja
Samya Bharata Sabaha
Nisamya Bhartashabha
Mamya Pristavan Bhuyo
Kimanya Krishna Bhuyo
Vaisakyam Risim Kavim
Vayasakim Rishim Kavim
Ladies?
Shanaka Vacha
Sanaka Vacha
Nityamivyaritam Raja
Idya Vidya Raja
Shamya Bharatashabha
Nisamya Bhartashabha
Manya Krishnavan Vayo
Kimanya Krishna Bhuyo
Vayasakim Risham Kavim
Vayasakim Rishim Kavim
Saunaka Vacha
Sanaka Vacha
Nityamirhitam Raja
Idya Vidya Raja
Samya Bharatasabha
Nisamya Bhartashabha
Manya Kristavan Bhuyo
Kimanya Krishna Bhuyo
Vayasakim Rishim Kavim
Vayasakim Rishim Kavim
Shanaka Vacha
Sanaka Vacha
Nityavivyaritam Raja
Idya Vidya Raja
Nishamya Bharatashabha
Nisamya Bhartashabha
Kimanya Krishnavan Bhuyo
Kimanya Krishna Bhuyo
Vayasakim Rishim Kavim
Vayasakim Rishim Kavim
Ready? Shonaka Vacha.
Sanaka Vacha
Shonaka said.
Shanaka said
Iti.
Thus
Abhivyaritam.
Abhivyaritam
All that was spoken.
all that was spoken
Raja.
Raja
The king.
the king
Nishamya.
Nishamya
By hearing.
by hearing
Bharata Vishvaha.
Bharata Vishwa
Maharaj Parikshit.
Maharaj Rikshit
Kim. What? Anyat.
Anya
More. Prishtavan.
Prishtavan.
Did he inquire from him?
Did he inquire from him
Bhuyaha. Again. Vayasakim. Unto the son of Vyasadeva.
unto the son of Vyasadeva
Rishim. One who is well versed.
one who is well versed
Kavim.
poetic
Translation. Shonaka said, the son of Vyasadeva, Srila Shukadeva Goswami, was a highly learned sage and was able to describe things in a poetic manner. What did Maharaja Parikshit again inquire from him after hearing all that he had said? So, purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. A pure devotee of the Lord automatically develops all godly qualities. And some of the prominent features of those qualities are as follows. He is kind, peaceful, truthful, equal, faultless, magnanimous, mild, clean, non-possessive, a well-wisher to all, satisfied, surrender to Krishna, without hankering, simple, fixed, self-controlled, a balanced eater, sane, manly, prideless, grave, sympathetic, friendly, poetic, expert, and silent. Out of these 26 prominent features of a devotee, as described by Krishna's Kaviraj in his Chaitanya Charitamrita, the qualification of being poetic is especially mentioned herein in relation to Shukadeva Goswami. The presentation of Srimad Bhagavatam by his recitation is the highest poetic contribution. He was a self-realized learned sage. In other words, he was a poet amongst the sages. So, Shonaka Vacha Ityavi Yav Raja Shamya Shava Kim Yap Yo Avayasakim Shim So, Om Gana Chidananda Shah, Karanjana Shaya, Chakshuram Yena Tasmai, Shidave Maha. So, a little bit about Shukadeva Goswami first. Not only was he self-realized, he is a Nityasiddha devotee. And as a Nityasiddha devotee, he is a Shaktavesh avatar. Shaktavesh avatar. Well, your internet is slow. What's that? Is it offered already? Oh! All right.
I thought I got it off.
Oh, that's all right.
Yes,
It's a reaction from all my karmic activities. Anyway, it's a token reaction for offending the Vaishnavas. So,
Maybe you should cycle
one should see like that when something happens. You should think, Tatena Kampam Sushalichamana, Ujalivatma Kutam Vivakam, Ritbad the Purvi, Vedanam Namaste, Jireti Yo Mukti Tadesh. Does anyone know that verse? One should tolerate things that happen to them, understanding that it's a token reaction from the Lord. And not only tolerate, one should go on serving the Lord. Ritva Purvi, Vedanam Namaste. Offering to Krishna one's heart, one's words, one's actions. And in this way, one becomes a fit recipient for pure devotional service. So that's how we should take it if someone hands us a flower and we get stuck. Krishna's arrangement, I have to keep giving Bhagavatam class and not cry for my mother. So getting back to the point, Shukadeva Goswami is a Shaktavesh avatar. Wow, that's it. And there's many different types of avatars. I was hearing from Prabhupada about the different types of avatars, but as far as the Shaktavesh avatar, it means someone who is empowered with some specific potency that has been given by the Supreme Lord. Actually, Prabhupada was mentioning this morning that also the holy names, it's interesting. The first time I heard Prabhupada say this, the holy names are Shaktavesh avatar too. And then Prabhupada quoted from the Shikshashtaka. Anyone know which verse he quoted from the Shikshashtaka? Nam Nam Kari Bhavadani Jasharva Shaktish. You've invested all your transcendental potency in the holy names. Interesting. And if you know about Lord Ram's pastimes, Lord Ram showed that the holy name was more powerful than Ram. You from India know this story. How Hanuman was able to defend a devotee by chanting Ram's name and was able to ward off all of Ram's weapons just by chanting his name. Ram Nam Sache. I know they chant that. So Shukadeva Goswami is a Shaktavesh avatar, empowered by the Lord. Not only that, he's a special personality who happens to be the Shuka, the parrot of Srimati Radharani. You've heard that story before? I guess I should tell it. It's an opportunity for me to tell this interesting story that was told to me by Gaur Govinda Maharaj. He said, once upon a time, Lord Shiva was giving Bhagavatam class to his wife, Parvati. And while he was giving Bhagavatam class to his wife, Parvati was doing what all of you normally do in Bhagavatam class. What's that?
Fall asleep.
Multitask?
Falling asleep.
Multitask.
No, multitask. They didn't have mobile phones at that time. There's no information about Parvati with her iPad or anything like that. So she was sleeping, but Shuka, the parrot of Srimati Radharani, was listening to the Bhagavatam class, and he was imitating the sound of Parvati's voice. So every time Lord Shiva said, "Are you listening?" And the parrot said, I can't imitate her voice. But I'm not going to even try. I can imitate a parrot, but he didn't sound like a parrot. He sounded like Parvati. So he said, "Yes, wonderful. In a female voice, obviously. And so Lord Shiva went on giving Bhagavatam class. Some of you may have heard the story before. And then he looked up and he saw that this parrot was imitating his wife. He got very angry. He started chasing the parrot. It's a little esoteric story. And then the parrot flew away from Lord Shiva. Same time, Srila Vyasadeva was giving a class to his wife. And Srila Vyasadeva's wife, she was attentive, unlike most devotees. And she had her mouth open, and just what the parrot went to her mouth. This is an esoteric story. I mean, sometimes these stories are told to illustrate the Siddhanta. You know, sometimes, you understand what I mean? To illustrate the Siddhanta, and they're not always meant to be taken literally. Because in the Vedic literatures, the important thing when you're presenting information is Siddhanta and Bhav. Siddhanta means perfect conclusion. Anta means end, or, and Siddha means perfection. I mean, the end of perfection doesn't mean you're finished with perfection. It means the conclusion of all perfection. Does everybody understand what the word Siddhanta means?
Yeah.
Like, Siddhanta means things like
Proper philosophical understanding.
Conclusive, ultimate philosophical understanding. Not just philosophical understanding. I have some philosophical understanding like the sky is blue or something like that. And that's not a Siddhanta. But it means ultimate, nasato vijate bhavo, nabhavo vijate sataha. Upayarapi drishtavantas tvanyas tattvadarshati. In other words, those things which continue to exist, truths, and sometimes you have the word tattva. The word tattva means that which is. In other words, something that is always true. Like we talked about yesterday, Sambandha Gyan in class. Like tattva, Vishnu tattva, Shiva tattva. Just yesterday someone asked me a question about Pancha tattva. The 5 categories. Basically it's categories. We use the word truths, but it's actually 5 different categories. And of course, 2 of them are variations of the same category. You understand? Like you have Lord Chaitanya is Vishnu Tattva, but he's the original personality of Godhead, full of all 64 qualities, just like Krishna has 64 qualities. And then you have Lord Nityananda, who's an expansion. So he's also Vishnu Tattva, but he's a different category within the category. There's an expansion of Krishna. And then you have, after that, you have Dvaitacharya, who's an expansion a portion of a plenary portion. Mahavishnu, also Sadashiva. And then you have, of course, Gadadhar Pandit Goswami, who's Shakti Tattva. And then after that, you have Jiva Tattva, Shivas Tattva. So this is a Tattva. So anyway, sometimes these stories are told to illustrate the tattva rather than being taken literally. Does everybody understand that point?
Yes.
So anyway. So Shukadeva Goswami, in any case, is the parrot of Srimati Radharani. And he illustrated a specific pastime of being absorbed in Brahman while he was within the womb of his mother. And because he was absorbed in Brahman, that's called a Brahmavadi, not a Mayavadi. Difference between them. A Brahmavadi means someone is absorbed in Brahman, taking Brahman as the absolute truth, but they're not criticizing the personality of Godhead. In fact, it's more or less like agnostic. You understand? Agnostic. Agnostic means you just don't know. I'm not going to criticize. Atheist is like my good friend Richard Dawkins, who's just like dedicated life and soul to trying to prove to people that God doesn't exist, which is impossible because you can't prove a negative anyway.
You can't prove a what?
A negative.
A negative.
I mean, if you say to me, prove that there's no blue-eyed unicorn, I can't prove that. I can say that I have not seen one, but I can't prove that there's no such thing as a blue-eyed unicorn somewhere in the forest here in New Talavana. It might be. So I can't prove a negative. I can prove a positive if it exists. I mean, I can prove that I can prove that there are cows here, right? That's pretty easy.
Yeah.
I mean, just like this morning, taking a job walk, and I was hearing someone yelling at the cows.
But can you prove God exists?
Yes, you can prove God exists. There's different proofs. I don't know if we want to get into it. This, you can use information technology to prove there's a designer, which is the name for God, the ultimate designer. I have several presentations where you can prove that God exists. And also we can prove by the process of bhakti yoga. Prachakshavanamandaryam Shushukam Kartamabhyam. 9th chapter of Gita, right? Rajaguja. So there's different proofs, but you can't prove it now. You can't prove that something doesn't exist. I mean, let's say I'm talking to a Christian, and the Christian says the devil is there. I cannot prove the devil doesn't exist. Unless, I mean, I can do Shastric proof. You know, if in the Shastra it says the devil doesn't exist, but it doesn't say in the Shastra the devil doesn't exist. Ultimately, that's our source or epistemological understanding. That means how do you know what you know? That's our source of knowledge, is Shastra. Because Shastra is not imperfect like everything else, like our senses. But using mundane means of acquiring knowledge, you can't prove a negative.
And that's an axiomatic truth.
Well,
That's accepted.
Yeah, because you have to be omniscient to prove a negative. If something doesn't exist, you have to be absolutely omniscient. You know, prove to me, yeah, there's no blue-eyed unicorn with blonde hair. You can't. You can't prove to me there's no God. I can't do that. So anyway, so Richard Dawkins and others are so highly dedicated to trying to prove that there's no God, that they are more God conscious than I will ever be in this lifetime.
Well, he doesn't have a lifetime anymore, does he?
Richard Dawkins, he's still
passed
alive.
on, hasn't he?
Not Richard Dawkins. You're talking about Stephen Hawkins.
Oh,
Richard Dawkins is still alive.
he's still around.
Yeah, he's just waiting to see the Avadutas. They're coming to take me away, they're coming to take me away, like that song goes. So, anyway, so he's dedicated to try to prove there's no God, but you can't really do that, and he's completely Krishna conscious of doing that. Like Kamsa. Kamsa was absorbed in Lord Vishnu. I mean, he knew that Lord Vishnu had killed him in his previous life, you know, Kalanemi, and he was just thinking, oh my God, he's coming to get me again. And so, I mean, even Krishna sent some interesting signs that he would look in the mirror and not see himself. So if you look in the mirror and don't see yourself, get ready to chant Hare Krishna and die. Or he had this dream or something like that with jackals or something like that. And don't worry about that. Devotees won't have that. So, get back to Shukadeva. So Shukadeva Goswami, he was a Brahmavadi, not a Mayavadi, not criticizing God. He wasn't offensive, but this is his pastime in the womb of his mother. And his mother was pretty pregnant, so 16 years pregnant. That's a very late pregnancy. And I guess in those days they didn't have any C-section. Right, so anyway, so finally he heard Krishna Katha. Krishna even had to speak to him, his father spoke to him. And what Shukadeva Goswami did, he showed himself, one of the qualities you mentioned here is a detached self-control. He showed that he wasn't really interested in having any sort of parental affection. He left home immediately after birth. And it's described that his father, who was running after him, and crying, oh my son, it's described only the trees and the mountains would echo, would respond to his plaintive cry. Then Shukadeva Goswami used his mystic power to create a duplicate Shukadeva. Prabhupada describes this. and a duplicate Shukadeva, so his father would take home someone and his father wouldn't harass him. That reminds me of Madhvacharya's pastimes. Madhvacharya wanted to take sannyas like when he was like 7 years old. And his parents said, no. His guru was very intelligent because his guru kept feeding the little kids sweets. And when you feed a little kid sweets, you sort of addict him. And he just wanted to leave and to go with his guru. Not because of the sweets, but because he was a pure devotee. He was Vayaputra. And then
Vayaputra, what does that mean?
the son of Vayu,
Okay.
like Hanuman
Mm.
and Bhimsen.
Mm-hmm.
So he basically he left. He wanted to take sannyas. His parents wouldn't let him. Then he made a deal with his parents. He said, "Dad, if your wife, my mother, can have another son, can I take sannyas?" And she was quite old. And the father said, "Yeah, of course." And so she had a son.
Wow.
And then at 9 years of age, he just left. So in other words, he needed to arrange through his mystic power for his mother to have a son.
Wow.
So he could take sannyas, so the mother would press it. But when Prabhupada was trying to get some help in India before he came to the United States, he asked many families to supply one son. And the families had many sons. He said, "Just give me one son." None of them did that.
He even put an ad in the newspaper, didn't
Yeah, he put an ad in the newspaper. Just one of your children. People are so attached to children. And also, at that time, it was considered disreputable, an embarrassment to have your child become a brahmachari.
he?
Because it was considered, they're like street urchins, beggars, like that. And even to this day, in certain parts of India, we don't really make brahmacharis like in Gujarat, because they want to keep all the kids there. So anyway, Shukadeva Goswami, as soon as he produced the imitation Shuka, and actually that imitation Shuka is part of the family tree which you'll find described in the Bhagavatam. Shuka probably described as not the same Shukadeva Goswami, but a Shuka who was created by Shukadeva Goswami with his mystic powers. And so then Shukadeva Goswami went back to his father and learned Bhagavatam from him. So it's not that he just left and ran to preach to Maharaja Parikshit, but he went back and had a Bhagavatam class, Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhava, Bhakti Vedanta, Bhakti Sarvabhauma. And then he went to preach to Maharaja Parikshit. So anyway, so Shukadeva Goswami, reiterating, is a Nityasiddha devotee, Shabdavesh avatar, eternal associate of Krishna, parrot of Srimati Radharani. And he was exhibiting these qualities that are mentioned here by Srila Prabhupada in the Bhagavatam. It says, Yasyasti Bhakti Bhagavata Kinchana Sarvargunas Tatra Samasate Sara Rabba Bhaktasya Kato Mahaguna Manoritena Sati Davato Vihi. This is a verse that Prabhupada quoted quite often. That one, Yashasti Bhakti Bhagavad, one who has devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all the saintly qualities, the divine qualities, become automatically manifest in one. And the second part of that verse is actually a little controversial. One who has no devotion, Manorite Nasati Davatovihi, his good qualities are simply on the mental platform. Now, that's something that needs to be explained. Because if you say that someone who is not a devotee or someone who has no devotion to God has no good qualities, someone will say, well, I've just seen my mother. My mother is very kind, peaceful, truthful, faultless, magnanimous. Or some charitable person, let's say Bill Gates, for example, who's made so much money and is giving most of it to charity, he's not going to leave anything to his kids. Practically nothing to his kids, because when you leave money to your kids, you ruin their lives. It's probably one of the worst things you can do. I mean, you can leave $10 to them. My father passed away and he just left me a gun. I sure.
Figure that out.
Wasn't sure what I was supposed to do. I was thinking, he's rich, he's going to leave me a lot, but sounds like something out of New Talmud. So anyways,
Maybe he knew you were going to have to come here.
so anyway, so you may say that someone has, I see so many of these good qualities in someone. So how do you say they have no good qualities or they're not manifesting good? Well, that's explained by this statement in the verse, Manorite Nasati Davatobi, that their good qualities are Mano, on the chariot of the mind, literally, that's what the Sanskrit says. In other words, their good qualities are coming because there are some particular modes of nature, mode of goodness, that happens to be affecting them at that particular juncture. Now, we find described in the Gita that the modes of nature are in constant flux. The Gita describes that sometimes the mode of goodness is prominent, defeating the mode of passion and ignorance, sometimes passion is prominent, defeating goodness and ignorance, and you get the idea. So, everything's in flux in this world. Everything is in motion. One Greek pre-Socratic philosopher said you can't step into the same river twice because the river is flowing. And you don't have the same body today that you had yesterday. Hey, it looks a little different, but it's basically changing all the time. The cells are dividing and everything like that. And this interesting app that you can get to age yourself on the phone here. Very popular now. People look at what they're going to look like. What?
I just heard that, because after I saw, then I was looking it up last night, and they're warning people not to use that app.
Yeah, because
The Russians.
the Russians take all your information. I have no information to give the Russians, so it's all right.
But they own the rights to your image.
That's fine. Let them chant Hare Krishna.
Let's see the devotee.
Yeah, they see a devotee. I think let them put me everywhere. So anyway, so the material world is always in flux, and also we're always in flux as far if we're not Krishna conscious, because we're affected by the modes of nature, and that's Bhagavatam says that everyone is forced to act, and Bhagavad Gita, sorry. Everyone is forced to act helplessly according to the impulses born of the modes of material nature. No one can refrain from action for a moment. So that's a problem. So yes, for some time we can exhibit these qualities, and then the modes of nature will influence us to be a different way. So in other words, these are not qualities being manifest from the soul, they're qualities being manifest from the modes of nature. Even you find with Ravan or some of these demons, they have certain good qualities. Ravan, for example, he was an expert Sanskrit chanter. He was not just a Rakshasa, he was a Brahman Rakshasa. Because he had a Brahman father and a Rakshasi mother. So he had many good qualities. He was charitable. I mean, Jarasandha was charitable to the Brahmins, wasn't he? Yeah. That's why Krishna, Arjuna, and Bhimsen went to see him dressed as Brahmins. Because he was extremely charitable. He'd give whatever Brahmins wanted. Karna was extremely charitable, wasn't he? In fact, he gave up his vest and his earrings that protected him.
And loyal.
And he was loyal. I mean, many good qualities.
Aranyakashipu gave a really good explanation to his lamenting wives of his brother.
Paranyaksha,
Yeah, it was really nice.
Yeah, it was perfect philosophy. I mean, you're the Siddhanta perfectly.
Yeah.
I'm part of the Siddhanta perfectly. So anyway, so we don't want to get confused if we see someone exhibiting these qualities and say, well, it must be a great devotee. Because the qualities don't necessarily indicate that someone is a great devotee. These qualities are actually qualities manifested by a devotee, but coming from the actual devotion of the devotee. And they're also, as far as the category is concerned, they're called guna qualities. There's Mukhya and Gona qualities. Has anyone heard this before?
Yes.
Mukhya, what?
Look is the face.
No, Mukhya means
Many.
the direct qualities. What is the original quality of a devotee? Does anyone know?
Servitude.
Yes, sir. He's the original quality of a devotee is that he's devoted to Krishna. Nyabhilasha shunyam jnana karma navritam anukulyena Krishna shilanam bhakti uttamam. That's described by Srila Rupa Goswami in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. That he's devoid of any personal desire, jnana, liberation, or enjoyment in this material world, gross enjoyment. And then he's serving Krishna enthusiastically, actively, and with a sense of devotion. So that's the Mukhya quality. That quality is always there. Now, Gona means the secondary qualities. So these are listed as secondary qualities. I mean, for example, let's take one here. In other words, they may not always be shown all the time with the devotee. I mean, let's say, take friendly, for example. I mean, I've heard Prabhupada get really angry at people and not so friendly. Right? I mean, he said about some atheistic scientists, kick on their face or something. Is that the friendly expression? Woo! But that essentially he is friendly. I mean, deep down, that's for the benefit of the person. Obviously, I wouldn't mind probably kicking on my face, kicking on my head. I mean, that would be ecstasy. Like Shivananda saying, you know that story, the Chaitanya Charitamrita? Where Lord Nityananda kicked him. You know the story now?
Yeah.
Lord Nityananda was hungry. And Shivananda Sain was taking care of all the devotees. And Lord Nityananda, he actually even cursed Shivananda Sain's children to die. And he went up to Shivananda Sain when Shivananda Sain showed up. And he kicked Shivananda Sain. And Shivananda Sain didn't say, well, that's not a Vaishnava quality. He was in ecstasy. Thank you for kicking me. So anyway, so these qualities are there part of the constitution because they're secondary of the devotee. But sometimes they may be manifest, sometimes they may not. I mean, grave, for example, sometimes the devotee may be telling jokes and laughing. I mean, I can go through some of these. And actually there's ways to explain them too. I mean, I don't have time to go through all the qualities, but, kind, whatever the pure devotee does, even if it appears unkind, like if he kicks you, that's kindness. Just like whatever Krishna does, in the Bhagavatam, Krishna is accused of being partial. But Krishna is not partial. Whatever he does, even the killing of the demons, liberates the demons. And then you have peaceful, sometimes apparently a devotee is not peaceful when he gets angry. But internally he's peaceful. So that, there's ways to explain these things, the apparent contradictions. But at least sometimes through our vision, we may not see all those qualities in a person. And that does not mean that they are not pure devotees of the Lord. Because these are gona qualities. These are secondary qualities that are manifest by the person's nature. But according to the circumstance, the pure devotee may or may not manifest them at that particular juncture. Does everybody understand that?
Yeah.
Just like sometimes people would criticize Prabhupada when he got angry. And they would say, oh, he couldn't be very spiritual when he's getting angry. But anger is there. And sometimes people would criticize Lord Chaitanya, says balanced eater, for eating too much. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he had a son-in-law named Amoga. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was feeding Lord Chaitanya, and Amoga said, like, this sannyasi is eating as much for 10 men. And of course, Lord Chaitanya is a balanced eater because he can eat the whole universe. There's no problem as the universal form. He's swallowing everything and devouring everyone. But anyway, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's son-in-law, Amoga, said that, and then Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya went to beat up his son-in-law. And he ran after his son-in-law and couldn't catch because his son-in-law was actually younger. And then his son-in-law got cholera. And he almost died, and then Lord Chaitanya had to save him. There's a story of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, putting his hand on his chest and saying, this is not a quality of a devotee or a Brahmin who's not envious. And then Amoga actually slapped himself. He said, with this mouth I have actually criticized the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So anyway, these qualities are important. We talk about them quite often. And in order to develop these qualities ourselves, we have to become Krishna conscious. There's no other way to do it. Otherwise it's mano rite nasati davato bihi. It's just simply on a mental platform. If you try to become self-controlled, a balanced eater, sane, mannerly, prideless, without Krishna consciousness, it won't be stable, it won't be steady. So, anyway, so these are some of the points. I'm sure they brought up some controversial subject matters. Anyone have any questions? Yes?
What happened to the parrot? It went into the mouth of...
Yeah, it's an esoteric story. And that's how she became pregnant, according to...
Oh, okay.
As I said, that's an esoteric story illustrating the Siddhanta. I personally don't take the story as literal. I think it is a figurative story to illustrate that he's the parrot of Srimati Radharani. So, I mean, usually ladies don't get pregnant by having birds fly into their mouth. Usually if something flies into your mouth, it goes into your stomach and then it testes. So, but it could happen like that. Krishna can arrange anything.
And celestial worlds.
Yeah, I mean, Krishna can arrange anything. I mean, these are living entities with spiritual bodies. But I'm not taking it as something that I recite as the absolute truth, because I didn't hear it from Prabhupada. And I don't have any Shastric reference to it. It's important to have Shastric references. Like if you go to Vrindavan, you'll find people saying, this is where Krishna did this is where Krishna did that. You ask them, where's that in Shastra? Well, it's just what I heard from villagers. Yeah.
Could you explain a little bit more about, because you're saying these qualities, if they come from the soul, but they may not always manifest.
Yes.
Or they come from the mind and they're changing.
Yeah.
How would we know the difference seeing? Because they both seems to be coming.
Because we look for the mukya quality.
Which is devotion.
Yeah, pure devotion. Yeah, I mean, like, let's say, here's a Shaktavisha avatar who's a pure devotee of the Lord. I'm going to give you an example. Parashuram. Woo! Yeah, I'm not going to say he had an anger issue. But he really did get angry. And he wiped out the Kshatriyas. There were lakes of blood. Because his father was killed by Kartavira Arjuna. And the sons of Kartavira Arjuna, actually. And so, wow. Looking at it externally, I mean, it's hard to see all those 26 qualities manifest in Parashuram, isn't it? But they're there, but sometimes they're manifest. A devotee out of service will sometimes, like, fight in battle Kurukshetra. And then certain times you don't manifest those qualities when you're in the battle of Kurukshetra. It won't be so good. I mean, for example, you have Yudhisthira Maharaj, who was manifesting a quality of honesty on the battle of Kurukshetra, during the battle of Kurukshetra, but it wasn't appropriate. When he was asked by Krishna to say that Ashwatthama's died, He said, no. I have this good quality of honesty. And I refuse to do it, Krishna. And Krishna had to make that trick with Bhimsen killing the elephant named Ashwatthama. You know that story. So, basically, and so then Yudhisthira, he actually did lie because he said, Ashwatthama, the elephant, is dead. So he was lying ultimately because he was giving the wrong impression. Lying doesn't mean only what you say, but if you say the truthful things in the wrong way or in the way to give the wrong impression, that's also lying. You can't just define lying by the words, it's also the intention. And because of that, Prabhupada said he had to touch the earth. Before that, he never touched the earth. And of course, Prabhupada said the atheists say, well, he touched the earth because he lied. And the theists say he touched the earth because he didn't obey Krishna's instructions. I mean, Arjuna wanted to be peaceful too in the beginning of the Gita. And Krishna said, no. How come these impurities have overcome you? So, anyway, these qualities, because one's a pure devotee, these qualities are there in the heart, but because of service, the pure devotee may or may not manifest them at a particular point in time. Does that make sense? But the quality of mukti quality is always manifest. He's always completely devoted to Krishna. Unless there's a pastime, like growing up, like Bhaktivinoda Thakur's pastimes when he was young. When he grew up, or Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was young, he would accost the devotees. He would challenge them and defeat them philosophically. And the devotees would pray, please let this Nimai Pandit become a devotee. If he ever becomes a devotee, he'll be a great preacher. Little did they know. So sometimes out of pastimes, like Lord Chaitanya, obviously Lord Chaitanya he's Krishna, but he's exhibiting pastime being a pure devotee. But we could not say that he was always exhibiting the pastime of being prideless when he was young. Actually, he was called, O crest jewel of the arrogant. Srivas Thakur said that to him. O crest jewel of the arrogant.
Shiromani, and then what? Do you know the word?
No, I don't know the arrogant. Manina, or something like that. But anyway, that's a direct quote. He would Srivas Thakur. So Lord Chaitanya exhibited himself as being prideful.
Your daughter was always very upset that he wasn't, didn't have bhakti. He didn't seem to have any bhakti.
Yeah, he was very upset because he loved Lord Chaitanya. And then one time, Lord Chaitanya, this is a story that one time Sachimata asked Lord Chaitanya asked Sachimata to get something for his worship. And Sachimata said, I'll get it very soon, quickly, but not right away. And Lord Chaitanya got so angry, he just tore apart the house. Smashed all the jars or whatever, cooking substances. And finally he went unconscious in a fit, And that story is, I think it was a Chaitanya Bhagavatam. Chaitanya Bhagavatam. Anyone's heard that story before?
Yes.
Very interesting story. And then Sachimata said to him, hey, you destroyed everything that belongs to you. What are you going to do about this? We don't have much money. So he goes out and he comes back with a bunch of gold.
Yeah.
So if you have a kid like that, it's pretty good. So that's definitely not grave or prideless or sane. So for pastime's sake, sometimes these things do not manifest.
There was a man that would go on walks with Prabhupada and Juhu, and he was criticizing Prabhupada because he was always criticizing Mayava.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I have to train my disciples on how to preach.
Yeah. That man was a doctor. I forget his name, maybe.
Yeah. Then they started, did you know?
Dr.
Patel, wasn't it Patel?
No, there was another doctor. It was interesting. But anyway, yeah, we'd always smash the guy.
Right.
But he was a friend with Prabhupada.
Mm-hmm.
Prabhupada was sometimes get really angry about nonsense.
There was one time in New Vrindavan, and there was a tape of it, but I haven't been able to find it in MP3s. But this one devotee asked it. They were having a discussion about Bhagavad Gita, and the devotee asked, said something about, Vivaswan, or how long ago it was spoken about the Gita. Prabhupada just laid into him. And, I don't know if you remember this, but devotees like Krishna and them were trying to defend him from Prabhupada's anger. They couldn't understand why he got so angry at that moment. And I asked the devotee privately later. He said, I know why.
Why?
He wouldn't tell me.
Oh, wouldn't tell you.
He said, I know why. Prabhupada knows.
It was a challenging question. And then there was that whole Gopi Baba Club in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
He probably became livid. I mean, just really angry at them. And then there was one of Prabhupada's ex-disciples who asked Prabhupada, what is my duty in life? You're my spiritual master. Prabhupada said, you have no spiritual master. Your duty is to enjoy the material world.
Go out and enjoy.
Go out and enjoy the material world.
Yes.
So that's heavy. But it's also out of compassion.
Right.
Pure devotee, like Krishna killing someone, pure devotee chastising someone is out of compassion. It's not out of meanness. So internally, all these qualities are there, although externally may appear to be something different. So the main point I want to make is the way to judge is by someone's devotion to Krishna. That's mukhya. It's very important to understand the distinction between mukhya and guna, or else you can become confused by the secondary qualities, or the non-manifestation of the secondary qualities.
May I ask a question about
Yeah.
the Shaktavesh avatar?
Yeah.
Okay. My understanding, and maybe there's different categories of Shaktavesh. My understanding was the Shaktavesh avatar, like say Parikit Maharaj, is the administrative energy of the Lord.
Yes.
There's certain energies where here you mention about in the Shashastika how I invested all of my energies within these holy names.
Yeah.
My understanding was that the holy name is actually Krishna.
Oh, it's actually Krishna.
But that with Shaktavesh to me seems like a lesser category than the full, like say, the deity form of the Lord.
That's what I thought too until I heard Prabhupada say that this morning.
Yeah.
I mean, that was what I thought. But when Prabhupada said the holy name is Shaktavesh.
Is that because he's manifesting in the material world, the holy name?
No, the holy name manifests in the spiritual world too.
Yeah.
But no, Avesh doesn't mean that it's manifesting in the material. That would be avatar. Avatar means to descend, to come down. And it means also Nama Avatar, is when the holy name descends here. But I never thought, I thought previously to hearing this class by Prabhupada, that Shaktavesh meant it like a jiva soul that was given some particular potency by the Lord. But then we have Sarva Shakti. In other words, the holy name has all the potency of the Lord and is the Lord too. And also we can understand, here's another point, I'm just thinking about this, because this is something I just heard this morning. As I told the devotees, I listened to a class of Prabhupada every morning while I'm doing my Divi Puja. So it's really enlivening for me to do this. So another point of, I was going to say something about Sarvashak, potency. Yeah, okay, here's it. Because the holy name has to descend in order to be potent. Bhaktivinoda Thakur said The holy name is not simply the movement of the lips and the tongue. Prabhupada said it has to be heard from the lips of the pure devotee. So, there's sort of an empowerment type of thing there too. That we heard the holy name. I mean, for example, I first heard the holy name on the radio. And it was Prabhupada.
The WBA.
Yeah, I was listening. Yeah, there was a New York radio station or something like that. And they put the Happening album on. And I didn't know. I was just listening for some mundane song like Chubby Checkers and the Twist or something. Some of you may not know what I'm talking about. But I was just listening for some mundane songs, and all of a sudden there's Hare Krishna, or, Prabhupada, not going to imitate it.
Yeah.
If I hit me in the heart, Bhavanti Vidkarna reciting the Katha, went from my ear to my heart. And I lost all sorts of interest in everything I was doing at that point. Just like I was going to the university, and right after hearing that, I said, what the hell am I doing? And I had no more impetus to continue my studies. My God, like Prabhupada said, the poison is entered.
Yeah.
And then I kept listening. I was so struck with the holy name that I kept listening over and over and over and over so I could record it on my tape recorder, big reel-to-reel tape recorder. Finally, they played it again. And I just played it over and over again, and then here I am. So actually that proves that the holy name can be transmitted through a recording. Some people say, no, it's not potent, but it's Prabhupada recording. Prabhupada used recordings to give people Gayatri mantras. I know some people criticize Prabhupada, said it's not bona fide, the holy name. But by the pure devotee can empower the tape recorder or MP3 player or whatever. And I find listening to Prabhupada on my MP3 player just as potent as when I was sitting with Prabhupada 5,000 years ago. During the Battle of Kurukshetra. No. Yeah.
Isn't there also a kind of Shakti Vaishavatar that's actually Vishnu Tattva but very specific?
Yeah. Sometimes Vishnu Tattvas, and sometimes Vishnu Tattvas could be Manvandara avatars, sometimes Vishnu Tattvas could be Yuga avatars. And sometimes you can have a Yuga avatar that's not Vishnu Tattva.
So then the holy name is Vishnu Tattva, but it can be a Shakti Vaishavatar
Yeah.
specifically empowered.
Specifically empowered.
Together.
Yeah, specifically empowered to do something that Krishna ordinarily doesn't do. Dinahini atachilo haninam bhutarilo. But anyway, Prabhupada said it, so I accept it as the truth. I never thought the holy name would be described like that before, but as Prabhupada said it, yeah, it's good as gold.
And Prabhupada also empowered his disciples sometimes when he had large initiations. The initiation, I was part
You
of
chant on the beach.
to chant on the beach while he was sitting there.
Yeah. Prabhupada could empower people that, certainly can empower a radio or... Anyway, I experienced that on the radio. It was potent. And that's why Prabhupada said it must be heard from the lips of a pure devotee. And, people listen to other people chanting. I'm not talking about devotees, like non-devotees chanting. People, some of the most famous chanters aren't even vegetarians. Yeah. Anyway, don't mention names. But they're not even vegetarians, and the devotees like to listen to them over. They're not getting devotional service. They're getting milk touched by the lips of the serpent. Vaishnava Mokod Girnam Bhutam Harikatam Ritam Shravananaya Bhakartanya Vasharpo Chistiyatapa. And that's from the Hari Bhakti Shuddhaya by Sanatana Goswami. He says, one who hears about Krishna from someone who is not Krishna conscious, then it's like taking milk touched by the lips of the serpent.
Would that be like listening to Sting singing Hare Krishna?
I don't know Sting's personal behavior or characteristics, it's hard for me to say. Maybe Prabhupada did empower George Harrison.
Yeah.
George Harrison was a vegetarian at least, and he did believe in Krishna. So, I mean, it's difficult to ascertain, but there are people who are eating meat who don't believe in Krishna, who are chanting Hare Krishna, very popular. I'm not giving you an example. All right.
Well, I mean, there's people eating meat that do believe in Krishna, but they may not be pure devotees.
Yeah, let me give you an example. This is a New Orleans example. Once upon a time in New Orleans, we had a fundraiser with a very famous kirtan person. Don't. Wasn't Krishna. Don't mention Hare Krishna. And it turns out that his band and everybody, they just wanted to get drunk afterwards. Yeah, there was some meat eating too. So I'm just wondering, I mean, it may be good for raising money. What is it? Money purifies everything. I just made that up. That's not a quote from Shakespeare. Believe me. So it may be good for raising money, but I don't know, I think we have to. I mean, I was with Prabhupada one time in Mayapur, and they invited all these professional kirtan people there, and there was a kirtan competition. And some of the people were really good. They could get the drum to chant Hare Krishna. I remember that. They actually had the drum go, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare, roll, money. Wow. How do you roll? And they were really good at kirtan, the dancing. I mean, it was just like, wow. And Prabhupada stopped the whole thing. He said, it's nonsense. They were going to have prizes for who could do the best kirtans. You were there?
Yeah, I won third place.
Oh, that was you on stage dancing.
No, but what he was like, especially in one night, there was some, and I remember this one Maharaji, she was like be chanting and then weeping, like that, sobbing and weeping, and then chanting, and Prabhupada said, this is stop it now.
Yeah, but Prabhupada stopped the whole competition. Another time, we were in Prabhupada's room, and then someone was leading kirtan, choking on the microphone. It was just like really loud. And Prabhupada said he thinks it sounds beautiful, but he sounds like a monster or something like that. At one point during that year, Prabhupada took away the microphones from the leaders of the kirtan. He said, no more amplification in kirtan. And that's kind of hard because you got thousands of devotees there. And how can you lead kirtan without a microphone? But then Prabhupada let us have it back. But, I mean, those were ecstatic years. I mean, Prabhupada circumambulating the deities there. And you've all seen videos of it, or been there.
Ringing the bell.
Ringing the bells, he went around, we were all dancing around Prabhupada. I mean, it was pretty wonderful.
That's the year that he really started, at the end of that festival, he started really getting sick.
Yeah.
And he came down one more time, and he did one more little dance. He could barely walk. It was really blazing in my mind.
Yeah, that was, and that year, he put down the cornerstone for the Temple of Vedic Planetarium. I was with him when he did that. And incidentally, it's in the same place where the TOVP is now.
Wow.
Although later on the devotees wanted to put it out in the field, but they couldn't do that for legal reasons. Because there's a limit of ISKCON land. There's a 24-acre limit to what ISKCON can control. And so it's actually the same spot, probably put the Nakashesh to the ground.
How could it be different? How could it have been different?
What?
And why you say incidentally, how could it have been different if Prabhupada established it?
No, but the devotees thought it was too close, as many devotees say right now. It was too close, and we didn't really own the existing properties we have now. So they wanted to landscape it a little bit differently. And Prabhupada did allow that. I mean, Prabhupada picked a particular design in the TOVP, and then he went through a whole bunch of different designs. And incidentally, Prabhupada said he wanted it to look like the United States Congress at one point.
Hmm.
And then devotees got upset later on after Prabhupada left when they designed the United States Congress building. Anyway, yeah.
And Shamasundra's new book, which is pretty much all about him first going to India in those first 2 years in India, he describes those 3 corner lane ceremonies, which all took place in a month. Mayapur first, then I think Krishna Balaram, and then Bombay. All within like a month or 6 weeks, Prabhupada laid all those cornerstones.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not sure if that was the cornerstone for the TOVP or for the...
Well, like you just described, he was laying a
That was the
cornerstone.
TOV, that was after the other buildings were built already, or?
No, it was before anything was done almost.
No, that was different. See, Prabhupada laid the cornerstone for the existing buildings, I mean, the original buildings, the corner. And then later on, after they were built, this was in 1975 or so, or 76.
It must have been 76.
Might be 76 or 77. That Prabhupada, I don't remember, so many years ago, that Prabhupada, he actually laid cornerstones several times for the TOPP. Different sites.
Several times. Yeah, this was early. This was 72.
Yeah, but this was much later.
Changing his mind?
No, yeah, devotees came up with different ideas. And, I mean, if we had had the property all in ISKCON's name, probably the TOVP would have been some distance away from the existing buildings. Right now, it's really close.
When Ambarish came to New Orleans earlier this year, he described all that, how it all ended up there, and how he took it as Srila Prabhupada's mercy.
Yeah, because it was the original spot that probably put the cornerstone in. But we couldn't do it anywhere else because of the what's called the Land Sealing Act in Bengal. Now, right now, the government is giving us permission to have more land. But previously, one organization couldn't own more than about 24 acres of land.
But the Communist Party is no longer ruling, right?
No. No, and the government is very favorable to us. Mamta Banerjee, I was there.
District.
I was there. Mamta Banerjee flew in her helicopter and went before the deities and offered to Radhamadeva and Panchatatva. And she, I mean, I don't know if she's a devotee, but she, she really showed a lot of devotion, and she pushed her whole cabinet to approve ISKCON being like they allowed to have more land as a tourist attraction. It was really nice. Okay? I think we have to end now because we have a Sunday program. And today we speak about Gopal Goswami. He was a very important personality. Okay, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada ki jai, Prasada ki jai.